Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Blodger Show. I'm your host, Chris Blodgett, and I want to welcome you to this bonus episode. Tonight's topic is doing the right thing. So, once again, guys, welcome. I appreciate you being with me tonight. And I'll, as you know, with previous episodes, apologies about not having another story up. I am working on it. That's why I want to keep. That's kind of why the game plan I've kind of developed is to still keep the same, keep the same schedule, make sure that I'm keeping episodes posting what I say they're gonna post, even if I'm slightly behind on the Storytime Friday episodes, but those will get updated and get recorded and get posted. But I figure, so I thought, well, if I fall behind, because of being sick or whatever, then I would just do these, still do an episode on Friday, but instead of them being a Storytime Friday episode, they'll be a bonus episode. Instead, then of course, kind of similar to another Real Talk episode, but not quite, could be whatever. So, but the inspiration for tonight's topic is this kind of. Let me ask you guys a question. Have you guys ever had it happen? And I'm sure a lot of us have, where you check your bank account and you have a balance that you're kind of like, how the heck, like maybe a mystery deposit or something, or a credit or something. Because we had something like that happen today. When I got off work this morning, I was checking the bank, because we were actually expecting to have a wire transfer sometime this morning. And I was curious when I got home at like 4:30 in the morning or whatever, if it was in there already. Of course it wasn't, but when I logged in, I saw that we had a $2,000 balance. I was like, because that's a different amount than what the amount we were expecting. So I was kind of like, did we get part of it, or what's going on? I looked down and there were two transactions, two countertop deposits. Basically, somebody had to deposit with one of the tellers, and both these deposits had three parts to them. So I brought up the first one, and it showed three checks for like $350 for each deposit. There's a separate deposit slip for each deposit. Just kind of was like, oh, what the hell is that? And so I'm looking at the deposit slip. Since thankfully everything's digital, so of course you can like see everything on the app. You can see like when you make a deposit with cash or whatever. You can see whenever you do a check deposit. You can see the photo, the front, back of the check, and you can see the deposit slip you fill out. Which most of the time, when my wife and I will go and make a deposit into Bank of America, if we don't do it with the mobile app, we if we go in, I don't think I've ever actually filled out a deposit slip. Like they have a routine where if you're gonna make a deposit, you just literally hand the teller your debit card, and they use that to bring up your account. And I think it's been a while since I've done it, so can't remember if we only give them the debit card or if we give them the debit card and our ID. I think we might give them both, the debit card and the ID, so they can confirm when they bring up your account that, okay, this is the owner of the account. But so looking at the deposit slip, and I'm noticing that there's 2 account numbers written down on this deposit slip. Like, one of them is written down and crossed out, you know, with a little initial beside it, and then there's another number written above it. And so I'm like, I had a feeling I was like, one of those is probably our account number. Like, somebody probably got the account number wrong and put our account number. Even though I don't know how they would do that, because neither our number or theirs was, you know, neither of them were very similar numbers. Like, they were completely different. Like, one of them might have been like in the middle of the number, it might have been like 00527, and of course ours didn't have any zeros as far as like a couple zeros in a row, you know. So it's like a very obvious distinction between the 2 numbers, and it's like, huh, okay, that's weird. And when I went and looked at, like, I brought up my main part of the banking app, and I looked at our account number, and I realized, and I was like, all right, so the number that was crossed out was our number. So I was like, all right, cool. They had the wrong number listed, and that happened to be our number. And then they wrote a different account number, which I'm assuming that was the incorrect account number, but for some reason it was still a deposit. Both those deposits were still put into our account. And it's like, okay. You know, so I was curious, because I don't think I've ever had that happen. I mean, I've had... Actually, you know what? Yeah, I'm thinking back. Like, I don't think I've ever had mystery deposits into our account, you know, that weren't supposed to be there. Like, you know, I've gotten paid by, you know, this such and such here or this there. And then I had to, when I got paid, I had to, you know, go and find out what it was all about, but it was like a credit for something. But I've never had one that showed up that was bid for someone else. So I'm sitting out in front of my apartment complex, and I'm Googling, and I'm like, what do you do if you have a deposit in your account that you didn't do? Because I'm thinking, like, obviously I know there's a lot of people out there that would probably see that and go, oh my god, I got money, yeah! And like, basically on Google, there's a lot of people would see a big deposit like that they didn't initiate, it doesn't belong to them, and they would, oh cool, I have money, and so they would go and they would do investments, try to earn interest on it, or they would withdraw it, or they'd pay bills with it, or whatever, and then they end up getting in trouble, because eventually the people that meant to deposit that in their account report it with the bank, and eventually the bank, you know, they of course reimburse them, and they track it down where the initial deposit went to, and then of course you get charged. You can either be negative because they'll reverse the transaction, so you'll be negative that amount, and or because that would probably, honestly, I say and or because they would most likely at some point reverse that transaction, and basically if you already spent the money, then you would just be negative that much. So the and part would be possibly criminal charges, because they could either the people that meant to deposit that in their account and then you spent it could come after you if they didn't get the money back. But if the bank reimbursed them, then the bank could come after you to get their money back from the money that was accidentally put in your account. Even though when you think about it, though, because I waited until I got home early enough I could have come up and gone to bed before the wife got up. Really would have loved to, honestly, because I was tired, because yesterday I had a rough start to my day. Sorry about that. Be yawn with you guys. But we had our power get shut off after I had slept for like 4 hours, and we got it back on. By the time we got it back on, it was like 3:45. So I was like, well, I can't really lay down and take a nap. I gotta get ready for work. My wife was all like, you know, pushing for me to do. She's like, I have a Red Bull in the fridge. I'm like, no. She goes, I know you don't like them, but so I was like, I was dragging ass. I was like literally tripping over my own feet. I'm like, no, I'm just gonna make it work. I'll do my best, you know. I said I might do a 5-hour energy, which I totally planned on, but I never. When I was at the swamp last night, I totally didn't. I just didn't. When I was inside heating up food or whatever, I didn't even think about it when I was in there. it didn't cross my mind until I'm literally just saying something about it right now. And you know what? I actually totally meant to do that. I didn't, but I did at some point about halfway up to Farina. I did pull over at the Love's that has the 24-hour Arby's, which I didn't get Arby's at that point. But I pulled over and I got like and being a diabetic and stuff, I normally don't pull off too often to get snacks like that. Usually I'll bring like crackers and whatnot with me to keep my blood sugar managed, you know, so that I don't have like a 5-hour, 4.5 hour, 5-hour trip without eating anything, and then get up there and I'm like, my blood sugar is like 79 or something. So, but because I was so dead ass tired, I wasn't drifting or anything, but I felt it. So I ended up pulling off at Love's. I grabbed a chocolate bar and a bag of Cool Ranch Doritos. Figured I needed something to give me a boost. And then I noticed that after that, that must have given me my second, third, fourth, and fifth win, because I got up to where I did my swap. Heated up my food, hit the bathroom, filled up my water bottles, got back on the road. I made another stop on the way back. I stopped at Love's again, but this time I stopped because sometimes if there's nothing made at home dinner-wise, then usually we call that a fend night, meaning we all fend for ourselves. So when I knew that it was a fend night, so I thought, well, I'm not going to have the energy to try and figure out something to eat when I get home, so I'm just going to stop at Arby's. I'll grab a sandwich and some fries, some curly fries or whatever. So, but I noticed that pretty much I was fairly okay for the rest of the night. Like, after I got that chocolate bar and the Doritos, I didn't feel like I was basically going to just doze off anytime soon after that. It was like, ooh, okay, cool. That plus drinking water and stuff, because when you're tired, being hydrated is definitely a good thing for you. But so yeah, this morning I was Googling a lot of stuff about what do you do if you have a mystery deposit, especially because it was like 6 checks, like 2 deposits, like 3 checks each. Not even anybody that had their name like anywhere close to ours, and their account number was nowhere close to ours. And it's funny, these checks, I guess they were traveler's checks, because it had a little umbrella and it said traveler on it. And it said like traveler. Sorry, I was hearing some noises, and I'm like, if it was a little bit louder, I would have said that sounded like a tire blowing, but I don't know if it was one of the vehicles on the other side or the truck next to me or whatever, because it's not something that happened with me, And usually, you know how it is, fellow truckers, if we blow a tire order going down the road here, we definitely feel it. Like, we'll hear the boom and we'll feel the boom. You'll hear the boom and then feel the vibration behind you, because like the trailer all of a sudden have a flat, have a tire throwing tread off the side of the road or whatever. But thankfully, I don't think that was me. I think that was something happened nearby or something, because it was a very faint sound and I didn't feel anything and I barely heard it. So it's all good though. So I waited until my wife got up, and then I was talking to her briefly. I came in there like, yeah, so we have to talk to a Bank of America rep. She goes, why? I'm like, because we have 2 mystery deposits that aren't supposed to be in our account, and as tempting as it is, basically, ooh, we have money. I was like, yeah, I don't want to get in trouble, so we got to report it. She looks, she goes, man, that sucks. She goes, yeah, that's like $2,000. I was like, yeah. I was like, but it's not ours, so I'd rather do the right thing and report it and have them get it back where it belongs, and that way we know we're good. She's like, yeah, you're right. I thought I was gonna be the one to have to do it, but because I planned on it, but of course, like being that I hadn't slept much yesterday, when she left work today, I pretty much was like, I still, even though I hadn't planned on staying up, I planned to basically just, take all my meds, get ready for bed, just crash really quick. I still was doing the whole, I'm guilty of it. I was browsing Facebook for about 15, 20 minutes, until it was probably like 6:15, 6:20. All right, I gotta go sleep. So I got up about 2:45. Had a message from my boss that I guess he got messaged by the hub out there in St. Paul, Minnesota from the team, I guess, saying like, yeah, St. Paul really wants you to get there at 8:30. I was like, He goes like, you always tell me I can't leave until like 4:45, 5 o'clock, that I can't commit it for, and so I was like, the only way I can get there at 8:30 is if I actually am rolling out of the door at like 4 o'clock. I was like, is that okay? And he's like, well, yeah, we'll try it and see how it works out. And worst case, you can go back to, how we normally do it and just communicate with the team. And I was like, all right, cool. I'm thinking the only reason why St. Paul would be messaging about that probably is because the team complained, or I would say the team, I would say the husband, because he's the daytime driver. Like, I don't hear much complaints from the wife, but the husband part of the team seems to complain quite a bit. Like, hell, like when they're parked in a certain part of the lot, and sometimes by the time I get there, it's pretty full, and so I'll park up front. Easy enough to get out of there. It's not hard at all, but I guess for some reason they have a problem with it, because after I've done it a couple times, like sometime in the middle of last week, he messaged like, all right, cool, we're parked, please don't park up front, please park beside us. I was like, I can't make any promises, because it depends on how the parking lot looks when I get there, because I'd rather not. I'm one of those kinds of drivers, especially when it comes to doubles, that I would rather park somewhere knowing that it's not going to be difficult to get out. Because sometimes I've swapped trailers with them where I'm parked at a good spot where they can get out, and they're parked in an area where it takes me a minute because I have to swing out really wide just to make sure I don't hit the truck up beside me, because there's not a lot of room. And I'm like, yeah, maybe clear when you get there, but then when I get there, like, there's trucks parked in front of you, so I can't back up with a set of doubles. So he's like, well, I'll let you know, like I'll just let you know whenever you're getting close. I'll let you know how the driveway looks or whatever. I'm like, all right, cool, that's fine. So I was like, I found it interesting that we would get a call from that hub or whatever. Because I'm like, for the most part, I'm a straight, like you guys know how I am. Like, I'm, straight up, like real talk, no BS, And so I'm always communicating with the team. And from day one, when I started meeting with them a couple months back, when they were like, yeah, so we'll get down here by 8:30. So earlier, if you want to get here earlier or whatever, by all means, and I said, the earliest I'll probably be here is probably 9:30. I said, usually it'll be 9:30, 10 o'clock, because, when I can get out of the Nashville, and sometimes it takes me a while to get out of Nashville because of the traffic. I said, but usually as early as 9:30 I can get here. I said, every so often I might get out a little bit earlier, maybe I'll get here like 9:15. Oh, that's cool, yeah, 9:15, 9:30, 10 o'clock, that's all good, I said, all right, cool. I said, every so often I might run into issues. I might get here by 11 because of like the highway shut down or something. Or one time it was the tornado going through Nashville, and it was literally a mile or so away from where I was. And I stayed parked at the hub and waited until it was clear, and that took off. But then because of that, I didn't get out of the hub until 6:30, so it was gonna be like 11:15, 11:20 when I got there. But I communicated and said, hey guys, like I could have easily been there by 10. Probably by like 9:40, but we had a tornado and it was close by. I waited it out until it was safe to leave. They're like, oh, cool, yeah, just get here safe. But otherwise, I am always there around the time that I say that I'm going to be there. Like, hey, I'm going to be there about 9:45, 10 o'clock. Usually it's give or take 5 or 10 minutes. So if I say 9:45 or if I say 10, then it's like if it's 9:45 and it's like almost 10 o'clock, and it's 10, then it's probably 10 after at the latest, So it's not like I'm constantly telling them, hey, I'm going to be there this time, and then it's an hour later. So lately I've pretty much been there at 10, or a couple days I've said, yeah, between 9:30 and 10, and I'm there at like 9:40. So last night I got there at like 10:35 because, of course, ran into issues in Nashville. And I'm like, really? You guys gonna complain to your bosses about like, oh yeah, you got there at 10:30. Yeah, and your load doesn't dispatch till 8:30 the next morning. So if it takes you 9.5 hours to get there, that means you're getting back to that hub at like 7:45 in the morning, and then having to wait for your next load to dispatch anyway. So why are we bitching and complaining? And the funny thing is, when they said like that, you know, hey, like, we'd like for your driver to get here by 8:30. I get a text with an ETA from the team. He goes, ETA 9 o'clock. I'm like, so you're complaining, saying that I need to get there by 8:30, but you're not even gonna get there until 9. So I took my time getting out of the hub. I'm like, why should I get there at 8:30? You're not even gonna be there. I was like, yeah, no point. But so I woke up this afternoon to that message, but then I also like, my wife came upstairs and she was like, yeah. So I talked to Bank of America. Oh, really? She said, yeah. I got a rep out of Georgia or something, and I told her what the deal was. And she, even the banking rep, she was like, yeah, that's definitely teller error, because you can tell that the number that's crossed off is your guys' number, but the teller still put it in that account. We're like, yeah, that's kind of what we noticed too. You know, we're like, don't get me wrong, like, we would love to not have to surrender this money, but we know it's not ours, so I would rather be a little more, you know, tighter financially because we didn't get to keep the money, which is fine, you know. I didn't feel bad about the fact that you know, it was like, oh man, it would have been great to keep the money. I was like, you know, you'd feel better if it was actually, you know, for you, but it wasn't. So I was like, oh well, it's all good, you know. And then our wire transfer hit, so it's like, all right, cool, you know, getting rent paid, all that fun stuff, you know. So, but aside from that, you know, it would be very. I know anybody out there that's ever had something like this happen, I know it's very tempting to say, they'll never know, you know, and you just take the money and run, you know. Which is one of those things, you know, it's one of those, like, you go through those scenarios in your head, like, what if you were to get a accidental mystery deposit of like $1 million in your account? Like, you know, what would you do? I mean, I'd like to say that I do the same thing that I currently did, you know, like, have us get in contact with somebody. But I'm not gonna lie, it would be very tempting, especially if the amount was big enough, to be like, all right, like, would it be possible to shuffle this around to another account somewhere, you know, shuffle around somewhere, move it around where you can save that balance and then disappear? Be like all the banks try to correct it, and you're no longer even anywhere in the country. But it's like, yeah, but I value my life, my freedom, so highly doubt I would go that route, despite how tempting it would be, because of the fact that I know that, yeah, I would have money, but then I would be on the run, because it'd be like, woo, got $1 million, and I don't care whose it is, I'm gone. No. You know, not really wanting to disappear to another country and try to, like, you know, change my name and all that stuff. So the right thing to do is obviously to report it, you know, return it, you know, and then go back to our very fascinating, entertaining lives. So, but anyway, you know, definitely thankful today for the fact that I actually got some sleep, because I feel a hell of a lot better today than I did yesterday. When you're that was that level of tired last night or whatever, when I first started. Like, literally, I got to the truck and I was checking in on the app and you know, doing the pre-trip photos and all that stuff. And I literally texted my wife. I said, "Yeah, I really should not be working right now." So I was like, my head is killing me. I was like, I am so tired. I was like, I feel like I'm just like looking through a fishbowl right now. she's like, yeah, well, she's like, get an energy drink or whatever. I'm like, well, I'm gonna try not to, because I really don't do energy drinks. Really don't do caffeine at all. Practically, it's mostly water. Literally, the most unhealthy thing I do as far as drinking goes is alcohol on my days off. That's the thing. Like, on my to-do list, I gotta see if I can find something, figure out what would be like a good supplement or something to help with strengthen your liver. Because for the most part, my liver's good, but it's like I went through the treatment, started doing the treatments for the diabetes. When I first got diagnosed, my liver enzymes were super high, dangerous levels. And so I was being told, yeah, you can't drink, like you gotta like stop altogether. And I'm like, but that's part of my routine on my weekend. Like I love my drinks. I'm one of those. I mean, how many of you guys out there, when you are enjoying your drinks, how many of you guys get like courageous and start calling people? I've never done that. I've been on the receiving end where like one of my cousins, shout out to Gerald up in Connecticut. I'm pretty sure he must have been drunk because literally we've never talked on the phone, and randomly I got a phone call attempt from him like at 2 a.m. one night. I didn't answer because I thought, why the hell is he calling me at 2 a.m.? Didn't leave a message, didn't text me or whatever, say, oh, sorry, bro, didn't mean to call you. No, nothing. Just, he tried to call, I didn't answer, didn't have a voice message, didn't get a text. I thought, that's weird. I said he was probably drunk. So yeah, that was fun. But, no, me, when I'm enjoying my adult beverages, literally, I'm more of the, I feel good, I don't care about anything right now. None of my worries or stress is really bothering me right now. Kind of makes me think of that one song, that I feel good. I knew that I would now. Another sip. So good. 2 more sips. So good. Hugging the bottle. I got you. 2 more shots. I feel nice. Another shot of Fireball, like sugar or spice. Oh, fun times. So, I hope you guys enjoy the new intros, because that's what when I was thinking about it the other day, thinking, man, I really need to get the next story done, but having been sick as much as I have in the past 2 weeks, whatever, which I'm doing a lot better now. I'm still clearing out crap. It's one of those things where like I don't do like chew tobacco or anything like that, or like sunflower seeds or anything where you gotta spit. So I really don't very often have a little just a plain cup in the truck, But when I have a cold, it's a lot of times, people will cough or whatever, and they'll cough crap out, but they won't actually get rid of it. Like they'll, cough and then swallow again or whatever. And it's like, I'm always telling my family, like my wife and my kids, whenever they're sick, I'm like, you got to clear that crap out of there. Because if you, like, especially my oldest, she has a really big issue whenever she gets cold, which happens a lot because grandson going back and forth between daycare and stuff. Then we all get sick. My oldest will get sick with a cold, and she'll have a lot of the sinus drainage going down the back of her throat, and we'll be afraid that she has the flu, because all of a sudden she'll be throwing up for an entire day, because it'll be going down the back of her throat, and it'll just make her throw up constantly. And so like at one point I debated, like, do I need to take her to the ER and have them check her out? And then my wife, I made a comment about like, hey, you got that sorry, you guys can hear that I'm still fighting it, with trying to talk, and then the throat gets a little stuff in there, and I'm like, okay, let me clear my throat a little bit here. But the wife has one of those, it's not Navage, I don't think, but it's similar, one of the ones that you flush your sinuses out or whatever with where your fluid goes in one nostril and then comes out the other nostril. I've never had the guts to do it because I'm like, that just looks unpleasant. I'd probably drown. Try to flush the nose out and be like, oh my god, my brain. But I was like, why don't you have Allie try your nasal thing, see if that helps. And I shit you not, guys, when she did that, she literally like, I walk in the kitchen when Allie's working on doing the sinus thing. Literally, like, I see her like put the thing against one nostril and then let it go in and out the other nostril. And all of a sudden, she pulls the thing away, and there was probably at least a 1.5 foot long, look like a string of basically mucus from her sinuses. And I was like, oh crap! I was like, wow. And I mean, but even though she still did have some occasions where she ended up in the bathroom because the sinus, the drainage going down her throat was making her throw up. But it sounds like doing the sinus flush that actually helps a lot. So she did that a couple times throughout the remainder of the cold. And now I'm taking these like I recently, cause I'm tired of being sick because of the grandson going back and forth between. And I know it's not something he's doing. I don't blame him at all. I blame the daycare because, like, I know for a fact that people will send their kids to daycare sick instead of keeping them home because, well, they have to work, so they're just gonna send their kid there, and of course other kids will then catch what that kid has, and then those kids will come home sniffling and coughing, sneezing, or whatever. Or if it's a flu virus, which is what we've gotten once too. He came home and had thrown up once or twice. Next thing you know, like, the wife and my youngest are throwing up, and me and the oldest are fine. I thought, literally that week, I thought, you know what? Hopefully we're avoiding it. Because normally we'll have like occasions where like I'll head off to work and I'll go kiss the wife goodbye. But when we're sick, literally I might go give her a hug, but otherwise we don't do the kiss goodbye. I'd be like, love you, I'd kiss you, but yeah, I don't. But. And then, like, thinking that me and the oldest, like, hey, we might actually, like, maybe we're not going to get sick. And then I get out here and get halfway to my load. And next thing you know, I'm nauseous. Nauseous as hell, whatever. Having to sip water and do the mind over matter thing. Just tell myself, just don't think about it, just force yourself to try to focus on anything but the fact that you want to really, like, throw up right now. It's like, oh, man, I can't do this. Till the next morning after I got back with my load and I got up the next morning, it was still basically really sick to my stomach, and I text. Those are usually some of the only occasions where if I'm sick, I'll call out because I can't really work very effectively if I'm, out here feeling like I'm gonna, basically throw up every second of the day. And it's been years since I have. Like, my daughter, my youngest, just commented, she's like, Dad, I don't think I've seen you throw up at all, like, my entire life. Like, and I was like, well, I really haven't. I was like, I probably did it back around the time that you were born. She's 15. Or actually before that, I think. Because, I think before I went in the military back in 2007 or 2006, I was staying with my parents, and I still remember when it happened. You know how it is when you have some kind of occasion where you get really sick afterwards. It kind of ingrains it in your memory, At least it does for me. I don't know if you guys have that issue. But I've had really good occasions too. Things that, like, memories with my ex-wife that, even though they're good memories, I would still like to forget them because I don't really want to remember her. It's kind of wasn't a very pleasant marriage. But there's occasions with her that I could literally just close my eyes and see both of us doing what we were doing back then. So, but hey, back before the military, when I was working on getting in shape, I was literally like half the size, or not quite half the size. So I'm like just shy of 3. I've actually gone down quite a bit, making progress, whatever. Last time I weighed was like 318 or whatever, which I was like, cool. a lot different than when I was 380, like within the past year, and now I'm less than 320. You know, just slowly working it down. And aside from the liver, got all the numbers, you know, looking pretty good. But I was staying with my parents, getting in shape, and I remember because like we had spaghetti that night, and I've always loved spaghetti. You know, as you guys remember, during the first quite a bit of this podcast, I would usually do spaghetti at night whenever I got up there to do my swap. I would bring literally a full container of spaghetti, lots of, like a big old thing of sauce, you know, added to it, and you know, like loaded with Parmesan cheese and whatever. Loved it. It was great. Probably didn't help with the diabetes diagnosis though, because of the fact with all those starches and whatever. So I was like, ever since I got diagnosed, I've changed it up. Now I do the stuffed chicken breasts, quinoa, and green beans. And then of course down with the VA, doing my medical stuff, and they're like, your A1C went from like 10.5 to 5.8. You know, it looks really good. And because of that, the VA won't approve the generic Ozempic, even though the Mounjaro with your regular provider was working really well for you. And I'm like, you would think that you'd want me to stay on what I was, similar to what I was doing, but they were like, but instead they want you to try this one medication that blocks the absorption of sugar in your kidneys or whatever, and so that way you'll lose weight that way too. And yeah, but I took it for a little bit, but the side effects on that med really suck. So, gonna jump back for a minute. Basically, when I stayed with my parents and we had spaghetti that night, I guess my sister had been sick with the flu a few days prior. And so literally after having spaghetti, in the middle of the night, I woke up and feeling like that. This is the way anytime I've gotten a flu bug, that where I did actually have to end up in the bathroom quite a bit. You know, having to purge pretty much. Is anytime I've been sick like that, it literally felt like I'd wake up and it'd feel like I had a bowling ball in my stomach. And I've had that feeling a couple times in my life. Every time it's happened, I'm like, oh crap. Like, you know, I'm not going to be able to avoid this, you know, and so, like, you may slowly, carefully make your way in the bathroom just to, you know, so hoping not to lose it before you get there, but whoop, whoop, got the bypass on the way station. So, but then jumping back forward again, so yeah, I got put on this med with the VA, and literally, like, I was afraid to take it at all. Like, when he was telling me about it, like, yeah, if we can't get you on Ozempic, then probably put, you know, because they might want you to try these other meds first. You know, you got to fail this one and fail that one before they'll approve Ozempic. And I'm like, all right. But then he's like, well, this med that blocks the sugar absorption in the kidneys, you know, and I was like, is it one of the side effects that makes you pee more often? Because that's why I came off 2 of the blood pressure meds I was on, because they were both diuretics. And I was having to stop every like 100 miles because literally it felt like I would drink like a gallon of water in that 100 miles. You know, because then when you pee, it felt you looked hydrated. Like, you were literally like peeing so much, it's like, holy crap, like I don't know how. But then because of that, it also made me thirsty all the time. Like, I could drink a half gallon of water and still be like dry mouth like the next 20 minutes. So then I would keep sipping on water or whatever. So then of course I'd have to pee a lot more. It's like, ugh. Thankfully now I'm on a blood pressure med that isn't a diuretic. So literally like the very first, when I came off those meds altogether at first, until I did a physical with my new primary care in the civilian sector, I came off those meds because I was like, I hadn't slept a full night in a year and a half. Like, every night I would try to sleep, I was up every 2 hours, basically running the bathroom, because I was having to pee all the time. And so even if you slept 8 to 10 hours, but you're up every 2 hours, you still feel rested. And I was like, I know that that's not healthy. Like, you got to be able to get recuperative sleep, otherwise eventually I'm just going to probably have a surprise heart attack or something, you know? So, when he was telling me about the med, I was like, I really hope it doesn't make me pee all the time, because that's why I can't do that. Like, my job, and I value my sleep, and if some of the side effects is that I'm gonna have to pee more often, I may not be able to do it for long. And he's like, well, you should be fine. So I was like, okay. But I was hoping that they'd get it approved, but sadly they didn't. They didn't approve Ozempic, and the doctor put me on this this med that, again, it blocks the sugar absorption in the kidneys. And I was afraid to take it because I was reading out the laundry list of possible side effects with this, including a lot of them. There's a lot of these side effects that says if you're taking blood pressure, like some of these, like if you're taking blood pressure medications while taking this medication, you could have this side effect that could result in death. Or you could have, or what is hell? Some of the side effects are this medication could result in you developing kidney disease. And I'm like, which would of course possibly kill me. You know, and it's like, I mean, there's a lot of them. Like, none of the side effects are like, oh, that's not too bad. No, a lot of them are like, yeah, if you develop this side effect, you could die. And if you develop this one, you basically might need a kidney transplant. And if, you know, this side effect will mean that basically you'd have to pee more often, and you'd end up developing a rash because you're basically peeing out a lot more sugar. I'm like, well, that doesn't sound pleasant at all. So I've just only had the med for a little bit, only took it for a little bit, literally like very short time frame, and I literally stopped because I was like, I was already noticing that instead of me leaving Nashville and being able to go all the way to Farina without having to stop, I left, and I mean, it wasn't as bad as when I was on the blood pressure meds. It was like, you know, it was definitely not nearly as bad, but I still noticed right away that I couldn't get too far before I had to pull off somewhere and basically, you know, empty the bladder. And I was like, yeah, this is gonna work. So I was like, I was worried about it. You know, thankfully I didn't notice it keeping me up at night, you know, but it's probably because you're supposed to take it like first thing in the morning when you get up. And so by the time I would get home and go to bed, I would hope that by that point that, you know, I'd sleep and it wouldn't affect me. Like, but thankfully it didn't. I was able to sleep like 7 or 8 hours without having to jump up and run to the bathroom. But still, the whole stopping every hour or so, hour and a half or whatever, you know, when I'm on the road trying to get where I'm going, I was like, yeah, that's not, you know, plus I did notice a little bit of a reaction. So I was like, yeah, this isn't gonna work. So I'm basically like, well, at least I can tell them, hey, I tried it, it didn't work. Like, I was having these negative side effects, and I can't work with those, you know. And if they won't approve those Ozempic shots, then I guess I'll just be taking the metformin and blood pressure meds and cholesterol med and whatever other, you know, the things I'm on and stuff, the things I take to go to sleep. And I'm just going to keep working on the diet, the nutrition part side of it, you know, watching my blood sugar, all that stuff, and I'll just keep working my way down weight-wise that way and be like, well, I tried to get on the shot, but in order to go through my regular doctor, my insurance will cover it until I need a $5,000 deductible, so it's like, yeah, okay, you know. But I'm one of those, like, I mean, I'm sure a lot of you might probably be familiar with what I'm talking about, where they give you medications supposed to help with such and such. Like, oh, I'm supposed to take care of this one minor problem you have. But possible side effects of that are like laundry list, like 12 or 15 different side effects, and coupled with could result in death. And I'm like, so the side effects for that medication are worse than the symptom you're trying to fix, you know? So it's like, you know, this could be a debate right here talking about vaccinations, you know. I'm not against vaccinations, you know. I'll admit I've gotten vaccinations or whatever, but like you know, it's like the COVID one, for instance. I got the initial vaccination, I got a booster, but other than that, I really haven't been back and gotten any further boosters since. Just like I haven't gotten a flu vaccine in a while, you know. And I know probably not related, but literally the last time I got a vaccine was like, I think I was still in the military, you know, for the flu vaccine. And I ended up hospitalized. Like, literally I got sick as a dog afterwards and Couldn't keep anything down. I had a really high fever. Still remember it too, because I'm dragging myself out of bed, can't stand up straight. My wife basically was like, "Go to sick call or something and you want me to drive?" I mean, I did. I made my way down there very carefully. Dragged myself into the sick hall, which is basically military equivalent of the ER. And they took one look at me and basically brought me into a room and hooked me up to one, literally admitted me right there. Put me in bed and hooked a bunch of tubes to my arm or whatever, and had me basically laying there while they kept swapping out saline bags. I was there for probably about a day. And about halfway through that day, it's when my wife finally showed up looking for me, because I hadn't been home in 8 hours. And she's like, "Oh my god, I'm looking for my husband." "Oh yeah, oh, you're Mrs. Blodgett, okay." And they let her in, and she's like, "Are you okay? What's going on?" "Yep." And I'm half asleep, "No, I'm not really okay, but I'm better than I was earlier." She was, "I'm sorry, I didn't realize you were this bad." I was like, "Yeah, I tried to tell you, but I was kind of out of it." So ever since, though, I'm like, nope, no flu vaccines for me. Screw that. People are like, "Oh, it had nothing to do with it. You were probably already getting sick." Yeah, probably, but the timing of it, literally, I took it, and the next day I was down for the count. So I was like, yeah, no, I'm good. I'll just try to do my best out here. I'm always about hand washing, and I use sanitizer, and I've got some Lysol spray at home. And now I'm doing the emergency little powder that you put in water that has 1,000 milligrams of vitamin C and a bunch of other vitamins. I'm doing that every day, because that's what I talked about with you guys about in previous episodes, where I tried to get the doctor's input on it. Hey, does taking 1,000 milligrams of vitamin C, is it worth it? Or what do you think? And he was like, well, I mean, there's no proof, there's no evidence about that, so I'd recommend just eating a healthy diet and exercising. I'm like, I do my best with that. I try to eat healthy, and I try to be active, and I still get sick. So I was like, so I thought, well, I'm going to go the emergency route and do that instead. And we'll see if I go a while without actually catching a cold again, if that actually helps, Because I'm like, yeah, when I get sick lately, it's like a 2-week process. I can't breathe, or coughing so bad for the first week to where my abs hurt. Then after that, it's another week and a half of just clearing crap out, But hey, joys of life, huh? So, but I know I kind of rambled on medical stuff, even though the topic at hand is doing the right thing. But I guess medical-wise, as far as to go with the topic, doing the right thing might be if you work in a public place where you're dealing with a lot of people. Then, doing the right thing would probably be going ahead, calling out of work and taking some time off to actually get better. For me, the way I've always been is if I can be upright and on my feet moving, then I'm working. Now, obviously, if I worked in a crowded space, I'd probably go ahead and, use a sick day or whatever. But since I'm a driver, I've had a lot of occasions where I'm still out here driving and I'm sick as hell. Ate the wrong thing one night at a truck stop, or I guess I must have touched the wrong surface. Even that, here's the mistake I made. I went to Fly J one night. I was a contractor. I had a trip that I still had 500 miles to go, and I went to Fly J the night before. I hit the bathroom. I washed my hands. Made the mistake of going into the arcade. Played a couple games. Went up to the front counter where you get the hot food at the front counter. So I got some chicken tenders or whatever, which of course are finger food. Didn't think anything of it. Went out to the truck, ate my food, went to bed, woke up the next day sick. Even that, dry heaved a couple times, but still managed to not actually have to throw up or whatever. So I don't know how I do it. I just, if I can, avoid it, if I can, will myself not to do it, then I'm literally just fighting and struggling really hard to just basically just not do that, because I hate that part of that being sick. So I was was taking like Pepto and fever reducer and trying to sip water, and I, basically wasn't eating because I couldn't bring myself to eat anything because I just felt like crap. So, but I knew that because I was a contractor, I knew that I needed to get that load delivered, otherwise I would fail the load, and that would affect my income. And so I was like, I got that load delivered and basically got parked for the night, and then the next morning I actually felt like way better than I did the day before. Still didn't have a huge appetite, but all the nausea and stuff like that had kind of subsided quite a bit. So that was one of those occasions that, like, if I was working a regular job, I probably would have called out. But to kind of go back to what I mentioned earlier, that I'd mentioned about, like, if I don't really do anything like sunflower seeds or whatever it's been. But, when I'm dealing with the cold, I'm trying to clear out my stuff, clear out the mucus or whatever, I'll stop at like one of the truck stops and I'll grab just an empty cup. And I'll use that cup to basically, while I'm going down the road, because you can't really, kind of hard to just, you're not out walking around, so you can't really just spit out there. So, I'd use a cup to basically, anytime I would cough any of this crap up, spit, and then when I'm finally over the cold, I can finally get rid of the cup. But there's this lovely black lady that I have no idea what her name is, but somebody that's with one of the other contractors, and sometimes she would be leaving to go park to head home around the time that I come in to get going. And sometimes she'll just randomly pull up, roll her window down, and stop for a minute, and I'll be like, "Hey, how's it going?" Just chatting back. And I had the cup because I was in a truck that wasn't my normal truck, so I would grab the cup, put it in my Ram when I would park for the night, so that way, just in case I was back in my regular truck, I would still have my cup, to get rid of the cold or whatever. But I was carrying it to the truck with my stuff, and I was carrying the cup with my hand over the top, so it wasn't like a wide open, so somebody could look in like, holy crap, what? That's nasty. What's in that? I'm like, oh, that's just me clearing out this mucus and whatnot. But I had it covered, and this lady goes, so what's in the cup? I was like, it's a spit cup. She's like, you a real man. I said, I guess, if you say so. Probably thinking I was like, chewing tobacco and spitting that way or whatever. I'm like, nope, I'm not usually one that spits in cups unless I have to. But anyway, guys, to close out this episode, because like dealing with the throat getting real itchy right now, I'm like, yeah, I better go ahead and end it. But so to close out this episode, I'll definitely go back to doing the right thing. If a situation like that happens, hell, technically do the right thing could definitely tie into some of the other stuff I talked to you. Like if you're really sick or whatever, and you work in a public place with a bunch of people, the right thing would probably be to go ahead and take some time off, go ahead and call out and sleep. Because I've noticed for me, when I'm really sick, the one thing that seems to help, that I seem to want to do the most of, is curling up under my blanket in my bed and getting as much sleep as I possibly can. Because a lot of times I'll wake up after sleeping for a while, and even though I'll still be sick, I can tell that I'm better. Like, I can tell that my body feels better because I've slept so much and it's healed a little bit. But definitely do the right thing when it comes to your like things like bank accounts and whatnot. If you see a mystery deposit like we did this morning, don't just automatically assume, oh cool, I got extra money, yeah, because they'll catch on. It might take them, from what I read online, it could take as long as a couple years before they finally catch up to you. But then eventually they'll get audited or whatever. They'll find that deposit that shouldn't have happened, and they'll reverse it. Next thing you know, you go from having a certain positive balance to a couple grand negative. I was like, yeah, that's kind of what I worried about when I first saw it. I thought, oh man, like I would totally pay a lot of bills right now, but I know that that's not ours, so it's always better to just come clean and talk to your rep and say, yeah, this isn't ours. Like, I don't know how this got in there. They could be like, all right, cool, they can fix it. That way, you know you're good. So. But anyway, guys, appreciate you guys being here. You know what I always say, keep pushing forward, keep believing. Believe you can, believe you will, and you're already halfway there. And then you just have to go out there and do it. And this time of year, guys, some of the best advice I could probably give is just make sure you guys are drinking plenty of water and getting plenty of sleep. Man, doing self-care, whatever that is, whatever that might be for you to make sure that you guys are good. And I know for me it's a weird thing, but my drinks on my weekend, for me, I literally think of those as self-care too, because it's stuff that helps me literally just not give a fuck or give a crap. Sorry. As soon as I said, I was like, crap, I didn't mean to say that like that. But, so to not give a crap about much of anything, like I have all my stresses. And doing what I do on the weekend is my way of basically just trying to like not care for a minute, So, but do what you gotta do, whether it's go for a walk, have a few drinks, hang out with friends, hang out with your family, watch Netflix, If you're a writer like I am, then get out there and write. Just do some writing, start a blog, whatever. Do what you gotta do. But it's like lanes ending, and of course, like you put your signal on, waiting for cars to let you over, and of course, cars pass you. I'm like, yeah, you guys are a bunch of dicks. But then one car lets you over, so you flash them to let them know, hey, thank you, man, appreciate you. It's all good, But especially if you guys are sick, get well hydrated, get well rested, and obviously eat healthy as much as possible, and just try to do the best you can, But take the time off if you can. Otherwise, just try to keep that couple feet between you and other people, whatever, and wear a mask if you're going to be in a public space. Just try to help reduce the possibility, of spreading stuff. Especially if it's something like the flu or whatever. Because I've been around places where somebody was sick and they ended up, next thing you know, they're throwing up in a corner. I'm like, oh crap. So then I try exit the building right away and be like, I hope I don't catch that, because that's gonna suck. Sometimes you get away with it, sometimes you don't. So, but anyway, guys, on that note, I appreciate you being here. And again, as always, apologies for the delay since I've gotten that last story time story posted. I am working on it, literally I couldn't do anything yesterday. I just didn't have the mental capacity because of the small amount of sleep, because of the power getting shut off and dealing with that, but feel better today, but still obviously, as you guys can tell, I try not to cough or whatever during episodes or whatever, but then it hits you right in the middle of a sentence or whatever, and you hear me clear my throat. I'm like, sorry guys, don't need to do this, But so I'm gonna throw it out to guys. As always, logicshow.com, and if you click the contact link, you can drop me an email for any suggestions, any comments, any ideas for what you might want, a topic you might want me to cover on Real Talk Tuesdays, or hell, even ideas for stories for me to do, to see what I can come up with for Storytime Friday episodes. But also, anybody that wants to support, the bare minimum that I ask, because obviously, I love financial contributions, obviously, because every little bit helps, as far as, to help us pay for the cost of keeping the show up and active. But the bare minimum I ask, if you enjoy the show, is to at least make sure that you hit that like and follow button, so that way you get notified whenever I do a new episode. And of course, tell your friends about it, because it's definitely the biggest way that podcasts actually grow It's through word of mouth. You know, when people say, "Oh my God, have you heard this podcast? It's really good." So I'm always trying to make things better on here. Like I got the new intro sounds for all the different shows, like making them different. Like the one intro for the Storytime Fridays. I got the unique intro for the Real Talk Tuesday, and then I got the one you guys are hearing today. You know, on this episode. You know, so that's me trying to like change things up, spice things up a little bit. But it's like I'm planning to do a little bit of make some changes with like Real Talk for instance, like eventually start doing like when I have the equipment, I'll start doing like random interviews with people, and you know, it'd be me my way of trying to not only change things up for this podcast, but also try to help others out as well. Like I'd be interviewing like my bro Rico, because I know he does like music stuff, and I'll even throw out the fact that even though he's kind of stopped recording for his podcast, he still has a podcast out there called like Alien in the Basement. I think it's exclusively on Spotify, even though I do think he did have it shared on Apple Podcasts as well, but I know it's definitely on Spotify. So, you know, it has literally, if you go look it up, Alien in the Basement, it's like a white image with like a picture of an alien, like a green alien on it. I was really not gonna lie, and Rico, bro, like if you hear this podcast episode, man, like I told you before, I was really not gonna lie. I was really sad when you stopped updating your podcast, but I totally understand why you did it. You know, I get it. You know, but just know, man, that I will always think your podcast was badass. I mean, it is badass because, of course, like it's still on there. You can still find it. But loved it, man. But I definitely understand. But Rico is one of my brother from another mother, and he's one of the ones that probably the first guy I'm gonna try to see if I can. Whenever I start doing random interviews, try to spice things up, give you guys a little more different content on here. Be interviewing him and asking him a lot of questions about about the kinds of music and stuff that he does, and where people can access it and stuff like that. You know, just like I'm always just like trying to do little shout outs for other podcasts that I want you guys to check out because I think they're good. Sorry, like that podcast I told you guys about called What Was That Like? So Scott Johnson, the host of that podcast, pretty cool guy. I've never talked to him yet, but I'm already I've been binge watching, but it's like binge listening to his podcast, and I think I've still got a ways to go because I think it's been going on for quite a few years, and I think I'm in like the 1.5 year mark or whatever, so I think I still got like 3 or 4 years left. I don't know, but a really cool podcast. You guys should check it out. A lot of unique situations. He interviews people that have been through these situations and then kind of literally asks them, what was it like? And they tell their story, whatever, and he asks a bunch of questions. And basically just, they talk for like half an hour or 45 minutes, an hour. I've seen one that was like, there were a couple of them that were like 1.5 hours long. And really, really awesome. So there's that one. There's Lore, Lore. There's Ghosts, or Haunted Road with Amy Bruni. That's really awesome. There's one that the host for the Lore podcast did. I think it was called Bridgewater. It's a story podcast where basically, kind of like an audiobook. Like I've actually got really into listening to podcasts that are basically telling stories the entire time. But the only problem is that you get really into the story and then it temporarily comes to an end because all right, cool, stay tuned for season 3 or whatever. I'm like, man. So there's 1 or 2 that I was listening to that basically have been kind of at a standstill for a while and haven't done any new episodes. And I'm like, man, I can't wait till it comes back because I was like hooked. and then you get to the part of it where they come back and you're having to basically, all right, listen to an episode and then wait until the next one comes out the following week. So it's like, then you're like, ah, man, you know, then you're bored trying to find other stuff to do in between episodes. But yeah, you know, so that's kind of what I'm trying to do here, as I'm constantly trying to make things better for you guys and try to, you know, give you guys good content and stuff. And like, I would love for if other podcast hosts come across my podcast, I would love for them to do the same thing that I'm doing, as far as like give them little shout outs and send people their way or whatever, you know. So I try to, you know how they say, treat others the way you want to be treated. And so if they like what they hear over here, then I'd love for them to mention me on theirs. And, yeah, go check out this guy I just ran into, Chris Blodgett. He has a show called The Blodgett Show on. And oh my god, it's so good. Like, he does stories on Fridays and Real Talk on Tuesdays. Oh my gosh. So like, that. Of course, if Scott on What Was That Like, if he does a shout out on one of his episodes, I probably wouldn't see it or hear about it for a while, because I didn't. When I come across a podcast that has a lot of episodes, I don't start at the end. I usually will go all the way back to the beginning, and I'll start at the beginning and just work my way through. So at some point, I might send the guy a voice clip. Be like, hey, Scott, you know, just checking in. I just thought I'd reach out because I'm a new listener to your podcast, and I was like, I'm still working. Like, I'm not up to the current ones yet. I'm still working my way up there from the start. You know, but I'm a podcast host too, you know, and I've mentioned you a couple times, you know, try to send people your way for my podcast because I think you're awesome, you know. So, but anyway, on that note, I think I'll let you guys go. A little bit longer than I had planned to be on this episode, but that seems to happen quite a bit, you know. But I love y'all. There's absolutely nothing you can do about it. Many people have tried, and please bear with me, of course. Like, that's, you know, I will get back into the regular stretch of things, you know, as far as the stories being posted on Fridays and the Real Talk on Tuesdays, like what I normally do. It's just with having been sick and then still trying to get over stuff, you know, then of course with the lack of sleep yesterday because of the power, because of course I'm a sleep apnea person, so I got a CPAP, so when I lose power, I can't really sleep. So that really sucked. But at least I've had it happen before where they shut it off and I'd only slept 2 hours. That was a rough night. But yesterday I had at least 4.5, so I was able to function. And I got my load, I got swapped, I got back to Nashville, and I got home. So I was like the entire time praying, just like, Lord, help me to get there and get back safe. Because there's certain times of the night when you're that tired that you literally just, you're like, oh my god, I hope I make it. I hope I can keep it focused, keep it together. But anyway, guys, to close it out, if anybody would like to support the podcast, go to blodgettshow.com/support. There's a one-time option where you can just do a one-time whatever amount you want to do. But there's also a monthly subscription where you can literally support the podcast for as little as $1 per month. Every little bit helps. Definitely appreciate it, and I thank you in advance. So on that note, guys, I will keep being positive, keep believing, keep pushing forward. Do what you gotta do. And as with the topic for today, obviously try to, you know, do the right thing. You know, like make the right choices or whatever. Sometimes it's not necessarily the easy choices, but we got to make the right choices, not necessarily the easy ones, you know. But anyway, y'all, I will talk to you guys on the next one, which will be a Real Talk episode on Tuesday. Have a good one.